process. So this is, believe it or not, a bar of soap that was in an aluminum bag and it got all weird brown, but you need a bar of soap and a piece of aluminum. And follow me, what you want to do is run the soap over the aluminum pretty regularly because you're going to want to see how all parts of it are doing in the heating process. And then you need a torch. I'm going to put this over here near the fan. And what I'm going to do is heat it up until the soap turns black. It's almost there. Yeah, this is not dark enough yet. That means I got to hit it down here. And that's it. You don't want it any hotter than that. And I just let it air cool. And then I can turn this off now. And then I'm gonna bring it into my sink and when it's cool and just wash the soap off. There won't be any oxidation on it or anything. You can brass brush it if you feel like it. And that's annealed. So you just don't want to heat it up too much, and the soap's an indicator when you've reached, I think it's 400 degrees, but don't hold me to that. Remember, I'm sick. So we're going to go back and I'm going to show you something I forgot to tell you about. I just wanted to run through how I round corners. I think I've probably done this a million times somewhere else on YouTube. But I'm going to show it to you to be fair and just. Okay. So remember I said I wanted to briefly run through the rounding corners. Should have talked about this before, but you know, sick. Okay. Either the pre-purchased blanks or your own blanks may have square edges. You can keep them square, but you should round them a little bit because these are going to be sharp and they are on a really sensitive part of your body. So I just take them, and this is my double cut, and I just roll and then flip it in this direction and roll this way. And that puts a little round on it. The more you do it, obviously, the more round it's going to get. And then I switch to, once again, it's just like using sandpaper where you switch your grits and just switching file. But turning it this way is important too, so that your curve is more uniform. So there's a basic curve. You may have to hit this area with a little sandpaper because there is a lip here now from the material that's left over from the file. So that's that. And now we're going to bend the one I annealed right here, but I have to get set up. So briefly, I have two web pages that are just so good. Well, I don't know if they're good, but they're there. One is on mandrels and one is on mandrel holders. I just wanted to briefly show you my favorite, which I talk about on my website. This is a pipe vise that plumbers use, or somebody uses. But it's great because it can handle this big, whatever this thing is called, I can't remember the word, for the mandrel holder. And if I clamp this to my desk, you know, I've got a great holder. It also adjusts for ring mandrels and bezel mandrels, which is the nice thing. I haven't enjoyed working with any of the other types of mandrel holders that are out there, so just want to talk about that briefly. But I'm going to switch and use my oval ring bracelet mandrel. Just sick because I'm just so stupid. I will whine and take advantage of it whenever possible. I want to use the oval mandrel because my arm is oval. So I'm going to do that right now as soon as I move this 300-pound thing out of the way. So this oval mandrel doesn't have a thingy, and so it's a pain in the butt. I don't know why it doesn't, but anyway, when you're starting to form this, I like to form the ends first. And since we're at an oval shape here, we don't want to just randomly start. We want to put this one end approximately in the middle of the flat side of the oval, because that's how it's going to be shaped for the wrist, if that is your goal. So I can start moving it, but it's annoying. So, and then I want to turn it and hammer from this side, which is always fun because this is not parallel, it's conical. So I want to make sure that it spreads evenly. And I'm going to tilt it a little bit so I have an arc to hammer on. Now you'll notice that this aluminum is not as easy to move as like copper or silver, but it is kind of soft. You can almost bend it with your hands. Here, well, you can. You can do this. So now I'm just going to work this around. I have got to come up with a different way to do this because I really hate this fighting this mandrel. I'm going to flip this way. It also helps if I'm standing up, which I'm not doing now. Now I'm going to turn this one. And so I'm kind of mentally thinking, okay, this is approximately in the middle of the flat side here. I'm also hammering it on a smaller part of the mandrel than my actual size will be, so that it, because if I tried to hammer it down here, it would end up being very open, and I want it to be closed because it's easier to open this up. Around on this side, try to keep it so you can see what I'm doing. Now, if you were going to do a flat spot like we talked about for a large stone, you might want to just avoid this area here. But see how this is not quite even here? And it's actually wider on this side than this side. So I need to put this side on the smaller part and hit a little more until I lose some of that. There goes something else. What was that? Pliers. I'm not going to do this whole thing. I'm going to get it on camera. I'm going to kind of get it into shape. Sometimes you need to pull it like this because it'll get wonked like that. So you can usually do that by hand. I also want to talk about these. I will write the size of them down, but you can also use these nylon halfy roundy, whatever they're called, pliers to shape your metal too, and kind of walk it around and curve it. You could maybe even, probably even use this if you don't have a mandrel. Might be an option. I haven't made a whole cuff with just these, but you want to have the right arc in here that's going to give you a wide enough, big enough curve. See how that kind of tightened it up and made it actually a little too round? So that's when we'll get it back on here and take that high area, see it there, that high area down by whacking on it. Whack, whack, whack. This is just a series of whacking, and I keep trying to remember in my head to try to keep those two ends of the blank as centered as I can, so that it doesn't end up with one big curve on one side and one short curve on the other. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll get almost to the end and come back and meet you with you, okay? So now I've kind of, here, let me show you. It's kind of roundy almost. And I'm almost done with the forming. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it at the small end, because what I want to do is pull these flatter and down. Even though this is way too small, I want this gap in between here so that there's some air so that I can form it down onto the top of this. And this is pretty springy again, because I hammered a little bit when you weren't looking. So I'm going to pound a little bit. I'm going to come from the side and go down. Come from the side and go down. I'm trying to hit on this end, not on this end, because if I do it over here, it's going to end up doing that. I'm going to flip it. So I tend to focus most of my blows more in this direction. And it's definitely easier for me to do standing up, by the way. So now I have to do this side because it's a cone. And I switched to my big boy hammer. Now it's like way too small, but it's starting to, these are in, the bottoms are in a little closer where I want them. And so now I can start doing the top. And this I'm going to put up here. Start to flatten it. Now I'm more shaping around the mandrel than compressing. I might be done someday. And remember, I'm feeling with my fingers back here to determine where the openings are. It's almost there. Sometimes you just have to do that. It's not perfect. I don't like that spot. See, that side's good. The other side isn't. So see, it's a little tight for me, so I need to open it up. So if you want to open it, you bring it down on the mandrel and tap again. Flippy. You can also mark your mandrel where your size is so that you're consistent, unlike what I'm doing here. So anyway, you just do this. You just back and forth until you get the right shape and until you get the right fit. And then you may have to clean up some marring on here with sanding files if necessary. Finish your edges. You can do that afterwards because sometimes the forming process will, what's the word I want? I can't remember it. Splooge out the metal. Is that a word? Splooge? So you might need to do a little cleanup and leveling on the sides. So just save your finishing for after you've whacked the hell out of it for an hour. It shouldn't take that long. This aluminum tends to get really work hardened pretty quickly. So it actually should be annealed fairly regularly. More so than I think copper or silver, you know. So, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Using brass, bronze, and copper to make these cuffs, you end up sometimes getting green goobers. Well, it's not goobers. They're staining on your arms. And that's a chemical reaction that occurs between certain people's sweat. Not everybody gets it. Certain people's sweat and the oxidation that occurs naturally in these copper-based metals. I did a test. This thing has probably been over a year now. This has Protect-A-Clear Everbright painted on this side, and this didn't, and I just kind of stuck it in a drawer for a while. So you can see how well this keeps the oxidation from occurring on to the metal. You can just see the hard line there. The only issue is that since it's a bracelet, it's going to be subject to a lot of abrasiveness by rubbing on tables and counters and streets when you fall on your face. Oh wait, that's only me. And other kinds of wear, and same with rings. They're both real hard areas to use this kind of product. So don't ever offer a lifetime guarantee on this, or you'll be getting back every week and having to re-put the sealer on. I think I've mentioned this 300 times at other places on social networking, but the weather's finally getting nice, so I'm going to go outside and start experimenting with powder coating, clear powder coating the metal to see if that's going to work to keep the tarnish off for a longer period of time than like a paint-on product like the Protect-A-Clear. So I think that's all I can think of right now to say, which is weird. I thank you for coming. Don't forget to check out my craftsy videos, prong settings from start to finish, and my other video, the riveted portrait pendant, which you can find linked to on my website. Sign up for my newsletter and you get I think it's 25% off. And let's see, what else do I need? Don't forget to subscribe because we love you. And say hi to Lisa for me when she goes to Africa and leaves me. Alright, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your viewership, and I can't wait for the next one. Hope you like the new intro, by the way. Adios. This is Nancy L.T. Hamilton signing off into the sunset.